Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast. Our guest had no idea that that's how our episode starts, with my son singing some weird shit. We have been waiting for this guest to come on. She is the boner queen, the self-professed boner queen, Allie Gilbert, founder of the Silverback Summit, just changing people's lives. She's the only guest we've had whose microphone is dangling in front of her mouth like the meme of the black guy with the cock on the bed. It's just there dangling. We've been talking for about 20 minutes. She's already licked it multiple times. We're assuming this episode will be a little bit out of control. And yes, I am a public school teacher. And that was the introduction. Allie Gilbert.
That's pretty good.
Welcome to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast.
I've been waiting for this, but I also am not the self-proclaimed boner queen.
No,
Who proclaimed you?
Somebody proclaimed me that, and Queen of Men's Health. And it's funny because like a couple of weeks ago, Generation Iron put all over the place that self-proclaimed Queen of Men, and I'm like, guys, did we have to say that? It just sounds so cringe to me, but whatever. Like,
who do you know? Can you credit an individual to just calling you that? Or did it just happen somehow and popped up and you're like,
I honestly want to say Boner Queen came from Anders from Barbell Shrugged. I don't know Queen of Men's Health where that came from, but
for people who don't know, you're not a porn star. That's not where the nickname came from. Why?
Not that we know of.
But not that we know of. We're going to find out. Right now we are in a what is commonly referred to as a Jim and a Rom sandwich with the view that we're seeing on our podcast streaming platform.
So yummy and sultry.
Allie's in between us. Why are you the boner queen? Why are you the queen of men's health? What do you know or do that people should know about you?
So, for those who don't know, my team or my coaching company is called Silverback Coaching, and we work with predominantly men, and we help basically facilitate the conversation surrounding testosterone replacement therapy and erectile dysfunction and getting guys jacked and shreddy and all the things when it comes to what dudes want. But basically normalizing boner talk is something I did come up with. And that's basically making it very easy for guys to bring up sensitive subjects because, as you guys know, socially, men don't really talk about this stuff. It's not like you walk into the locker room or the bar and you're like, yo, could not really keep it up last night. I don't know what happened. Whereas women socially talk about that type of stuff all the time. Yeah. So I want guys to be able to freely, discuss it and not feel like they're so isolated or unique and alone, because it is very, very common, even though it may not be normal, to experience sexual performance issues at any age. So
I'll tell you, being at the Silverback Summit this year, we all got to witness the environment that you've created with the questions that people asked. And the one guy specifically, I won't say his name, we know who he is, was very vulnerable about his relationship with his wife, about things that are going on. Hey, now I can get it up, but this is something that's happening, and he's asking these questions, and everybody could feel there was zero judgment. And that there was other guys in the room that were like, yeah, fuck, I would have never asked that question. And that was such an amazing moment at your conference this year.
Well, it's a relief to hear that stuff, I think, as a guy, because it's all the shit that you've been thinking for a long time that you've never really been able to vent. No, the reality is I think men are probably becoming a little bit more vulnerable now than they ever have historically. I think we grew up in the age of like rub dirt on it and shut the fuck up. Whereas now I think the people that are like sub 30 are starting to have more of these types of vulnerable conversations because it's a little less taboo. But still, I mean, when I was 31 years old and I got diagnosed with hypogonadism, there was nowhere to look. There was nowhere to turn. I was fucking miserable, depressed. When a man loses that function, it's no different than when a woman doesn't find herself sexy in the bedroom. There's just no intimacy is gone. Communication breaks down. There's more resentment towards one another. I don't think people understand the link behind sexual health and mental health.
Yeah, that is huge. And so many guys are suffering in silence. So I wanted to create that environment. So I'm very glad that you guys were both there because you can speak on the experience. But as you know, I also recruited a sex toy company as one of our sponsors. And
Got a nice little swag bag. I got a couple firsts.
My fellow Armenians, too.
That's right. Yeah. And I was not sure how it would go over because I don't think anyone can really predict that because I've never seen that at a fitness business
or a
men's
men's
conference.
Yeah, men's focused conference. You don't see that
like
stuff.
men only. Yeah. Like,
correct.
People are like, well, sex toys for men, like that's a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, just you wait because they are awesome personality wise. Like you guys met them, but
Yeah.
I asked them after, I was like, how did it go for you guys? Like, was it worth it? Blah, blah, blah. Holy shit. They're like, Allie, we had so many guys come up to us to discuss what you were talking about on stage because you talked about it as if it was normal, so they felt comfortable. But also they were like, yo, I tried this the other night with my wife, or they're interested in some of the toys. Like, I think they sold out of everything. And
How many guys got into butt play after that?
That's a great survey. We should have sent that out after.
Yeah, that's it. That'd be a great one. I'm
going to ask that.
I thought those were all just motorized lightsabers.
I mean,
Aram got the lightsaber full-size edition. It was like, that's not what that's for, but go for it.
You've seen
Use
that.
it.
You've seen that Chappelle episode. There's like, bitch, I think I stole your lightsaber.
I have not, but I will look it up.
Yeah, please do. So, Allie and I have actually known each other for about 104 years. When I first met Allie, she was a trainer at New York Sports Club, and I was still doing cocaine on Wall Street. And now I just do cocaine off of Wall Street, so nothing really has changed other than my occupation. But Allie had a very interesting rise in this business, and I've watched it happen gradually over time, and it's been a very nice, steady ascent as opposed to what's happening now, which is people are just turning into like figureheads within 3 hours of going online. Allie did it the hard way. She spent time on the floor learning how to work with people in person. Then she went the golf route because we were surrounded by a bunch of rich fucks who wanted to play golf better but really just wanted to look better naked. And then she realized that because most people, even though they tell you they have performance goals, actually have really more aesthetic goals, she realized that the bottom line of all of this stuff is body composition. So she created this, and I want you to talk about some of the main principles behind how you help men improve body composition, not just men, because this can apply to women as well, because the standards don't really change from sex to sex.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because I've also watched you ascent, and now we're in the same circle again. Like, when I left Connecticut.
Nobody's fucking watching me.
I just met you.
That's fine.
I've watched you. I watch you.
Oh,
I watched you on that website you sent me.
OnlyFans?
Oh, yeah, OnlyFans. Yeah. Yeah, I sit fully clothed and play the harmonica. It's pretty wild.
Dude, probably there's dudes that are into that. But anyway, what were you asking? Oh, body composition.
Body comp improvement.
Yes. So, you know how, like, we've had this body acceptance movement and all this stuff, and there's a lot of fit shaming, just as there is fat shaming. And there's a huge amount of people, guys included, that literally just want to be shredded. And I'm like, cool, let's talk about it. And somehow I was cornered as the person to help guys become super shreddy. Like, that literally was not apparent to me until somebody said it. They're like, I'm coming to you guys because I want to be dick skin lean, which is a term I learned from my coach, Luke Lehman. And so I was like, oh, so is that how I'm perceived? And they're like, yeah, because people were like, I'm not really that fit. Can I still work with you guys? I was like, yes, like we're an equal opportunity coaching business, whatever. So anyway, a lot of guys try to get lean the wrong way. And what I mean by that is it's that vicious cycle of they feel fat, they drop weight, they feel skinny fat, they feel small because most of them did this very low carb, very high amount of activity. And then that worked until it stopped working. And then they're like, well, I got to gain weight. So they start bulking. And then that bulk turns into, well, fuck it, I'm just going to dirty bulk. Get fat.
Is 12 pounds a month on a bulk an appropriate number?
Are you asking for a friend?
I think if you're on,
I'm asking for
about 4.5 grams of Tren a month should get you.
Yeah, if it doesn't, then we might want to check the validity of
Yeah.
What you just
substance.
said, Ali,
I'm just
doesn't
kidding.
just apply to things with penises. It also applies to plenty of women who
Yeah, but
end
we're
up
used to that
losing
message.
weight.
We're used to that message. We hear that about women. I
Yeah,
feel like
but-
men,
but
it's
th-
not
there's
talked
still
about that they're doing the same thing.
But
Yeah.
the chief complaints are always going to stay the same, sex to sex. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
True.
I don't even know what it's gender, sex, whatever. Who cares? I don't care.
All 70
don't
of them.
know.
Same
It's-
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the chief complaints are the same. It's the same cycle of I restrict, I lose weight, I then look like a melted candle. I still don't feel and look the way that I should feel and look. So what do I need to do? And this is where I think having the specificity of training and the specificity of eating dialed in. Most people cannot do this without a coach. I'm sorry. As much as I'd like to be able to think that people can do it, 15 years of experience in this business has taught me that they can't do it without a coach. So this is where you come in.
Yeah, that's why I hired Luke like 6 years ago. I actually, just before this, was trying to finish a reel that I made of the last 6 years of how my body's changed and bulk phase and photo shoots and all that stuff. And I always tell clients, because when I talk to prospective clients, a lot of our guys are like what you said, I know what to do. And I've done everything I possibly can. And basically they realize they can't finish what they want as a goal by themselves. And they realize I brought myself as far as I can. You know, I've never had a coach, or we've had people who have had coaches, just maybe not the best experience. And so they're like, I'm ready to outsource that. And I tell them, hey, dude, I've been doing this 20 years. I know what to do, or you would think I do. And I've had a coach for 6. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, I never want to do my own programming or anything ever again, because he has given me stuff that I'm just like, what? Like, so we're doing this, and like directions that I never thought we would go in. Like food goes up when I thought it should go down, and like all these other things. And I'm just like, had I tried to figure that out myself, it would take me away from my business, from my personal, like everything gets distracting. So it's no different than if you buy a car that maybe you've never driven before, you don't know how to handle it. Would you take a Lamborghini to a mechanic that has never worked on a Lamborghini? Probably not.
No,
but
no.
you would
Yeah, and
outsource this?
Yeah, and you got people with Lamborghinis trying to work on themselves through YouTube. In terms
Yeah.
of their fitness, that analogy of the Lamborghini.
Well, it's
Yeah.
actually, it's funny enough because in Greenwich they actually have a Lamborghini. They have a super sports car dealership in Greenwich. Every time you buy a McLaren, a Lamborghini, or a Ferrari, they take you in the car to a track and they show you the basics of how to drive it, because they've had so many people that buy these things, bring them off the lot and wrap them around a tree because they're not equipped to handle it. And people don't understand the simple nuance. I don't want to say the nuances, because just things like, what is a joint action? How does this muscle move this body part? What does this thing do to my body when I ingest it? Most people don't know any of this stuff.
And even
And
the progress
we can
that they're making. How many people they're going, this isn't what I was expecting, so I must be doing it wrong. And
Yeah.
you have that coach to say, no, this is exactly how it ends up happening. This is
Yeah.
totally normal. We just have to ride it out, give it a little bit of time, and then you'll see.
Yes, because we, have, as our own coach, would make an emotional decision.
Yes.
Based off how we feel that day, what the scale says, what we look like all that stuff. When you, exactly like you said, you need that objective viewpoint to say, shut the fuck up, you're going to keep doing this. And we've taken guys through this over and over and over, because everyone knows that that initial 3 months of discomfort and fluffiness, because they're eating more and maybe they're eating more carbohydrates, once they get through that, then it's like the clouds part and everything becomes happy again. So you guys know Chad. I always use him as an example. His before photo, like obviously he's very fit and everything, but he was eating strict carnivore. He was on 1,800 calories a day. He felt awful, no energy, couldn't gain muscle. Just he couldn't do it himself anymore.
Where was body weight when he was at 1,800? I'm curious.
Oh God, I don't
180?
remember. I
Like
think
230?
No way.
no, because he's like 6'3", so I think he was around like 210 maybe.
Okay.
And
1,800 calories.
But still,
Yeah.
as a 210-pound guy to eat, I mean, the lowest I've gone in the 200-pound range for me is right now I'm at 2,200. And
yeah,
That's that fear of calories, fear of losing a physique.
yeah.
the lowest that we had a guy who who dieted very hard. I think he lives in the UK. And then the typical skinny fat. And I asked him, like, well, what were you eating? And he said on his off days, he was at 1,400. On his training days, he was at 1,700.
Jesus Christ.
So where do you go from, like, where do you go from there? Yeah, I don't remember. He's small, but
I like to reference body weight compared to calories, just so people that are listening can start to kind of identify. Okay, does that make sense for me? I've always liked.
Right.
I don't know about you, Allie, but I've always liked the idea of start somebody at about 10 calories per pound, and then that's where you start figuring shit out.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But we also know that it's more than where you are.
Right.
But a lot of guys, like you said, it's no different than women where they freak out if the scale goes up too quickly, if their clothes don't fit, if all that stuff. So but it's also that initial weight gain. And I think a lot of that fear comes with, oh, this isn't going to come off, because in the past it didn't come off, or it didn't come off in what they would think is a respectable timeline. But, okay, sure, we can diet you from 1,400, but are we going to 900? And then you're going to be smaller and unhappier. And so it's that cycle.
Or what's the likelihood of compliance at 900 calories?
Right. It's going to be miserable. Like, you're miserable now, so, there's no going lower. So this is what we have to do. And you guys have just as transparent conversations as I do with these guys. And they understand because they've seen the results that we've gotten with other guys. So like someone like Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Chad, starting at 1,800, we went through an initial phase because we started in February and we had summer coming and everyone wants to diet for summer. So I only could bump him up to, I think, 2,300 before we cut again. But then he trusted the process and he just was like, I'll gain whatever. So over the winter, we put, I think, 30 pounds on him over 9 months. Now he diets on 2,500 calories.
Okay, so tell us then about the testosterone aspect. Before he was with you, was he on testosterone? Did he get on it afterwards, since this is the topic that you are the expert at?
Yeah, he was on the whole time.
Okay.
So,
did anything change with his protocol? If you remember. Okay. So this is almost a testament to these people, because I think this is important too for any either woman that's listening, because we believe we have a predominantly female audience, and any men that are listening, but even for men in their life. The biggest problem I think we probably see or hear about now, because TRT is becoming more popular. If I get on TRT, then I'll have the energy to work out, eat better, and I'll finally start losing fat. Talk about that.
Yeah. I had someone in my Q&As the other day who said, why am I not losing fat on 1 ml of test, which is 200 milligrams typically? And I think he said cardio. I don't know. An impossible question to answer without knowing more about him. But the thought process.
Because you're not.
Yeah. Because this is not a magic fat burner. Like, yes, it can be lipolytic. However, quite the opposite of, like, when you go on TRT, you will see the scale go up.
It's anabolic.
Yeah, your appetite's going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the lifestyle aspects that people need to have a real reality check on when it comes to, and these same things apply to women as well, I would think. Maybe a little bit different, since we're dealing with different hormones.
Discuss the need for lifestyle optimization in conjunction with hormone replacement, as well as the safety of it, because I think there's still a lot of myths circulating around about how if I have a cancer risk in the family, that's going to exacerbate that, or if I have breast cancer for women, it's going to exacerbate that. There's still a lot of this bullshit going on, and I want people to really know that they have an option.
So there are a lot of myths and misconceptions. So first thing is seeing it as the panacea that a lot of guys will see it as, where I will get jacked, I'll get in shape, I'll do all these things. And we wish that would happen, because we have plenty of guys who are on testosterone in the world that don't look like they're on testosterone.
Correct.
Our guys tend to have the lifestyle dialed in. So what does that mean? So I like to use examples in numbers. So if a man is 20% body fat or over, or I even want to say 16 to 20 or over, going on testosterone might not be as good of an experience as if he were 15% or lower. The leaner he is, the better the experience for a multitude of reasons. If you have more body fat, body fat is the most inflammatory tissue. So now you're taking a body that is inflamed, that is suppressing testosterone because it is trying to protect itself, and you're adding an exogenous source of testosterone to a body that doesn't want it. So your body's going to be like, yo, what the fuck? What is going on? And it's going to react. And those side effects tend to show up in mood swings, water retention, hormone fluctuations, all those things, where a lot of guys may be like, you know what, testosterone didn't work for me.
And is that the body fat is causing an aromatization, an estrogenic effect? Is that part of what's going on?
It's more the insulin resistance too that comes with it. So yes, there's a lot of estrogen, and adding testosterone will aromatize into more, but it's more the problem of the inflammation and the insulin resistance. And a lot of guys think that estrogenic side effects are from estrogen, but it's really more from insulin resistance, because the body is like, I don't know what to do with this because I don't want this and I'm not ready for this. So, but the catch-22 is, like you had said, Jimmy, is some guys feel they need that to get the energy, to get them off the couch, to get them feeling good again. So sometimes you just may have to start with a smaller dose to provide a guy with a little bit better quality of life and cognitive ability to say, okay, I can actually get off the couch and do this, and they have a little bit more motivation. But seeing it as something that's going to solve your body fat problem is crucial to understand that that's not how it works.
Yes.
So this is something guys have to confront whether they're on testosterone or not. So what we try to do is if somebody comes to us either on TRT or not on TRT, we try to get them down towards 15% body fat. And I call it GPP for TRT, is kind of the approach to coaching.
Tell everybody what GPP is.
GPP, yep.
It's just
general physical prep.
There we go. Just
Yep.
so that they know.
Yep. So
the explainer
it's kind of like
of things.
prepping to prep yourself. So
Yeah.
in sports, people go through a general prep phase, and then they go through an SPP, which is a specialized phase towards whatever sport they're playing. So these guys are playing the sport of life. So we're prepping them to have a better experience on testosterone, whether they're on it, considering it, whatever. So we get the body fat down. We get them more insulin sensitive, less inflamed, tolerate carbohydrates, start putting on muscle, and then it's going to be an overall better experience from many viewpoints. So now, shifting into what you're asking about the myths and misconceptions, the most common thing is the prostate cancer and the heart attacks. And as you guys saw at Silverback, a lot of that research has been refuted. It's no longer a concern. Dr. Jordan Grant, who has clients or patients with prostate cancer, has put guys on TRT because it has been shown to not have a causative effect. And there are no studies that he says show that testosterone causes prostate cancer.
So what you're saying is
None.
there's a difference between correlation and causation? Is that
amazing? Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Thank God Jordan Grant is so hot.
It's wild.
Yeah, I think
I hate how attractive he was.
both Chad and Luke said if they had to have a prostate exam, it would be from him.
100%. I would then zero glove or lubrication.
Yeah,
Me and
I would
Aram
too.
actually check each other's prostates every time we go to a conference, just for safety.
Yeah, well, usually that's quarterly, so we're being very on top
Quarterly,
of the PSA
yeah.
numbers.
I mean, we have the
Jim actually has a little dipstick that he uses that will measure PSA on the spot, and that dipstick is actually his tongue.
This is true.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
It's like a litmus test with semen.
A revolutionary new method that we call the Hallinan method.
That's
Yeah,
really that's talent there.
Yeah, it's an ejaculatory litmus test. It's a next level,
Can't wait
next
for
level
everyone to
stuff.
listen to this episode. This is going to be great.
My mother is always proud of me.
She is so horrified.
I
that
would
you're
be
still
too.
alive.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
proud
I
of
appreciate
that.
that.
I mean, Aram, you've matured so well. It's so cute.
We are using the word mature very loosely on this podcast today.
Yeah.
Mature.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we are all helping people. We have to make a little bit of light on this stuff because it can get overwhelming and depressing for people, whether they're men or women, and they are battling these issues. And, these fears that people have are legitimate fears that I don't want to invalidate, but I want them to be armed with the information to know that they should actually get second opinions and third opinions and fourth opinions, because if you're in a stage of life that you're miserable, and you have done everything from a lifestyle perspective that you think you can have handled already, maybe you're just operating with not a full deck, and that is because of a hormonal issue. And why wouldn't you, if modern medicine available to you, plug that in and just make life a little bit easier?
Yeah, and how fucked up everything is, there's a lot of people that do think that their lifestyle is dialed in. And then maybe you find some coach that's going, no, it's not dialed in. You know, you think this is. I mean, how many clients that you maybe worked with where you're seeing maybe a food log or something about their lifestyle that they think is great, and you're like, this isn't good. Like, this isn't dialed in.
All the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's the world we're in.
Yeah. And,
we need that guidance just to even find out what dialed in means.
Yeah, and when people say they want to be optimal, like they don't know what optimal means. And for example, I think across the board, we've all said over and over that people don't eat enough protein. So we've actually, I was talking about this in another podcast. We've gone through every macronutrient that's been demonized in the last few decades. It's time for fiber to take the stage because, you know, we're going towards the end of where like protein is bad and all that stuff. That pendulum
I have to disagree.
has
A lot of defense chemicals. Broccoli's bullshit. A lot of defense chemicals, Allie. You clearly are uneducated. But tell us about your vegetable theory, if you will.
But it's like, do you remember it was like the 80s going into the 90s, you know, like Snackwells and fat-free and all that stuff. And like
chips.
Oh, dude. I used to have a slide, like Aram probably remembers, I had a slide that showed like every diet fad throughout like the 90s and the 2000s. And it was cholesterol, you know, being so bad, and now cholesterol's good, and then we eat all the fat, but you don't have to eat every 3 hours anymore. Now we can eat twice a day, but then you can do only one meal a day, and actually you don't even need to fucking eat because you can fast for 3 days and water fast.
The only
and that's
effective
anabolic somehow, because then your testosterone growth hormone goes up, but only if you're sunning your balls at the same time
and the roof of your
making
mouth.
Sure that,
I just saw a video about that, sunning the roof of your mouth, because it goes right to your pineal gland.
Oh my God.
Allie, can you still taste and feel those Snackwells, the devil cake ones?
Oh, God.
I can see the package. I see how they're in. I can taste and feel them in my mouth. Still, because my mother...
chemicals.
Yeah, it was like that dieting culture. My mother was in it. It was the Snackwells things, but I can still feel and taste them. It's wild.
Yeah.
Lester used to literally liquefy my guts and make me just go spray diarrhea.
Yeah,
you don't need fiber when you have Lester chips.
No.
Fat-free Fig Newtons were like amazing. I mean,
even that don't even have that much fat in them to begin with.
Even that, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Even that type of scam that people fall into. One, fat-free Fig Newtons versus regular. You're talking about a 1.5 gram difference of fat. There's 1.5. Now there's 0, and then they add 2 grams of sugar. The calories are basically the same. It's like a 4-calorie difference. But the instinct is, well, I'm dialed in. I'm getting the fat-free Fig Newtons. I got this version of whatever. They don't know.
100% every single person has said. Because I ask, what did you learn from logging your food? I'm eating a lot more fat than I thought. Well, that's because we've been conditioned that fat is good. So more fat must be better. That's how America is. We're very extreme. I'm like, caffeine, 600 milligrams is great, 800 is better. That's how we all operate,
soy,
you know?
We saw soy blow up.
Yeah.
Soy blew up. Like, it's like, what's next? Like, it just is entertaining, at least, to look back at everything and, like, the Slim Fast shakes and the Ensure shakes and just, you know, Atkins, which was then morphed into the South Beach diet, which were all versions of keto, which has been around since the 1800s, but it's new. But now we have, like, keto cookies, keto pie, keto brownies, keto chips, keto fucking toilet paper. Like, dude, enough.
First of all, keto toilet paper is better. That's a perfect segue, what you just said. Segue, Aram. That's your word.
Can we play that sound effect? Can you do it?
Yeah, I can do a perfect segue. Let's see if it plays. It's
Jimmy
not
with
work.
the skills.
Fucking Riverside. All right, too much work. Sean wanted to ask you, will we regret TRT 30 years from now?
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that. I don't think so. Because
is there anything
if you think
anything that you could even project or be like, fathom would be something that we would find out where we go, oh shit, we were wrong?
Personally, no. But I think I have been asked that do we think that younger guys in terms of like teenagers will end up on testosterone? I can see that happening because of like the decline in exposure to androgens, just like when kids are a fetus and stuff like that. Nobody knows long term because no one's really studied it, because again, this is a very powerful, safe medication that allows people to make decisions for themselves. So that's why it's so highly regulated, and we don't want it given to guys. And
yeah, I think
it's
that's
so
going to
highly
be such
stigmatized.
it's going to be such an interesting thing, because like I know one of my friend's dads, he's been on TRT for probably 20, 30 plus years. He does not look it. Just a lean guy. He's not out training and all that kind of stuff. It's for youth and vitality, mid-late 70s, great energy. Just that's what he has it for.
That's awesome. And
it's funny because it's my friend's dad, and he'll be like, getting my pellets put in tomorrow. Got to tell his wife to get those hips loosened up. It's just hilarious. Like, he'll talk to me like that. It's hilarious. I die. I love it. But it's almost like type 2 diabetes, where we don't know. Now that it used to be adult onset diabetes, we know people that are dealing with this for maybe the second half of their life, what the research shows. But now we're dealing with kids having it at 10, 12 years old. It's the same thing. Like, we know, hey, TRT, the research is great for people getting on it 40 plus years old and for longevity for the rest of their life and vitality. With testosterone levels dropping, people getting 20 years old, like, what would you say, based on the things that you do know? You have a 23-year-old who has no history of testosterone or steroid abuse, has the symptoms, because we do know there's a difference between low T and symptoms of low T. Somebody could have 800 and have all the symptoms and need to bump it up. Somebody could have 300 and they feel great. So they have the symptoms, they have the low T, they're 23 years old, they don't have a history of abuse of steroids. It's just the lifestyle factors and everything else that, how would you approach or handle that at this point, knowing what we know?
It's actually more common than is talked about, but it's so taboo, especially in younger kids, that it's not often discussed. And especially when it comes to practitioners, there's a lot of practitioners. If somebody is a certain age, oh, you're too young. And this could be 32, this could be 35, because that used to be very young for someone to consider TRT. But now it's very common in guys in their 20s. So it's getting to the cause of why does he have this, and what is actually the driver behind it, because there's a few things that you have to be aware of, that it's a for life medication. So will he actually need this for life?
Yeah,
Nobody
50,
knows that.
60 years of it.
Yeah. It can suppress sperm production. So if he is not producing sperm and goes on TRT, that's one thing. But he has to get a sperm test, because if he's not producing sperm, then we have to figure out why that is as well. And then is he going to show up in life as a hypogonadal man? Because that could be a very poor quality of life, and he doesn't know what it's like to live as a man. Dave Lee talks a lot about this because he deals with guys of that age, even to the extent where they have considered transitioning because they've never lived like a man before. So they don't know what that's like. So I personally, like you guys know, I'm very pro TRT if somebody definitely needs it. And there are clinicians who will use things like Clomid or even HCG monotherapy so that they don't completely suppress his HPTA access, so that he can at least kind of jumpstart the system and see what that does and see where is this problem coming from. Because it can be, like, if it's primary hypogonadism, maybe he had testicular trauma, maybe he had a varicocele, or it's something where it's coming from the testicles themselves, and that can be rectified, especially at a young age. If a guy is old and his balls aren't working anymore, then you absolutely need TRT. Or is it secondary, where it's coming from the brain, and there's an interruption in the signal from the brain to the testicles, which is very common among younger people. And when I say younger, it's anywhere from in the 20s upwards of even in the 50s, because stress can show up in many different ways. Stress can be emotional, physical. You don't even know it's happening. Or if you don't exercise at all and you sit around eating crap, that's stressful on your body just as much as training too much and eating too little, and all of that. So I think it's going to be hard for him to evolve as a man because he's going to develop anxiety and sexual performance issues and all of that stuff if he does not have optimal testosterone. And what are the risks of living with low testosterone? There's a lot of them. You're predisposed to more cardiovascular events and some neurodegenerative issues and maybe some other diseases. So
yeah, it's wild to think that people are, like what Aram said before, the first thought of TRT is the problems that are the problems that you may have. But what you just said, not being on it, give just a short list. You mentioned a couple of them. Low T is associated with what health issues?
So, like, one of the main fears, heart attacks, right? So there's tons of studies now that show low testosterone is a bigger risk for heart attacks, strokes, and all those things. So now there's research showing the complete opposite. But the problem is that the research has not caught up with all of the physicians who are still telling people that it can cause a heart attack. Now, that was highly discussed on the cardio panel for a reason at Silverback, to help guys understand what are their true risks, because it's also contextual, family history, comorbidities, something else that they're dealing with. It's not so black and white where go on TRT, lower risk, all this stuff. It actually does lower cholesterol. It actually does improve a lot of markers, and it is quite the safest medication for men, but guys still fear it because of these things that have been discussed so often in conventional medicine. So
yeah, and because
as you guys met Dr. Twyman, who's a cardiologist, who talks about there being no such thing as bad cholesterol, which throws everybody off because they're like, well, what are you talking about? Because guys hyper-focus. Anything over 200 they consider bad because that's what they've been told. Dr. Serrano says a guy can have high cholesterol if he has low testosterone because the body's like trying to make it, because cholesterol manufactures testosterone too. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so to say sin, not necessarily testosterone. And it could be because there is some other thing brewing, because there's plenty of healthy people who've had heart attacks. They're not on testosterone. So
yeah, I mean, we see that story about the ultra marathoner who's 48 who drops dead of a heart attack, or the guy that's been vegan for 12 years and he's dropped dead of a heart attack. So I think we still have to severely and very consciously monitor the lifestyle stuff. And I'm very, very tired of the idea that we can medicate our way out of these problems. Now, I think, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. Don't immediately run towards hormone optimization until you've optimized lifestyle first, because I think the habit-based approach behind lifestyle optimization will 100% support HRT. And without it, HRT just isn't as effective. And I think this goes for men and women, because there are women who are either perimenopausal, menopausal, whatever, and they're either being thrown into these HRT clinics haphazardly without ever addressing insulin resistance issues, over fat problems, under muscle issues, and they're just taking these medications, and then they're in this stage of life where these hormones are fluctuating on a month-to-month basis because they're actually in this degenerative phase of life where these hormones are declining, but they're being given exogenous hormones in an unbalanced system. It doesn't make any sense. Whereas for men, once you've gone through hypogonadism or once you've gone through andropause, that system is essentially shut down. So now the exogenous thing makes sense. Like for me, I will not produce it on my own. I have to get an exogenous thing. I will inject that for the rest of my life. But I think for the female population, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit just because we do have listeners in that category, talk about the importance of things like sleep, stress management, muscle retention and building, and then food quality.
Sleep's a big one, and it's funny because I used to hyper focus on that as kind of like the main big rock. And now I don't so much, because the problem that it led to is guys would hyper fixate on their sleep without addressing everything else. And so obviously if we're addressing their diet and addressing the training part, that's needed. But they would try to even biohack their sleep so much, like trying every single supplement, the blue light, the routine, with no improvements on whatever Oura Ring or whatever their score is. And I found that if we just really hammered the nutrition and the training sleep became a byproduct and as an improvement based on them getting their shit together in the other areas. So instead of trying all the things sleep-wise in addition to trying everything else, it's like, let's not go buy every single biohack there is for sleep just yet. Obviously, you don't want to be laying in bed, like, drinking a bottle of whiskey, scrolling your phone. But how about we go to bed earlier, at least start the process, and then as we get in more aerobic shape, then we're going to actually sleep better. Nutrition is going to be better. We stop drinking. We're not going to just pass out. We're going to actually sleep uninterrupted, stuff like that. So stress management is one of those things where it's so contextual because everybody feels they have their own unique stress because of their situation, which I'm not going to dismiss. Like, if I don't have kids, I don't know what that's like. But that does add a stressor. So then we have to focus on what are the things we can actually control. So you can control how you react to things. You can control your food. You can control your training. You can't control people coming at you and emails coming at you. However, you can set aside time to prioritize the things that are the most important. So if you have to forego training for whatever reason, then that's okay because we can still back that up with nutrition. So letting everything go to shit just because of one missed workout or, the dog is sick or the kid is sick or whatever does not have to happen because you're resilient and you're well equipped and armed with tools to be able to navigate that, which I think is where a lot of people lose their mind because they're like, well, I'm traveling. Okay. I mean, you show all the time when you travel, as do I. This is my mini fridge in the hotel. 99% of hotels have them. Instacart is like everyone knows what that is now. You can ship meals ahead of time if you use a meal prep service. Like there's literally a solution for every excuse. We've heard it all. So we can help somebody get out of their own way. Because there are people that will find a reason not to do things instead of finding the reason to do things. Does that make sense? Like they'll say, well, I can't go here because I'm going to be off my diet, or I can't start with you because I'm going away. How about you start when you're literally in it? So that you can navigate everything, like New Year's and stuff like that.
You don't need a fucking coach when life is going well and you're getting the results you want. You want a coach when shit's hitting the fan and you're the most chaotic because that's where you'll have that sounding board and you'll have that support system. I lean on a coach when my goal becomes very specific. I don't do much with my coach when I'm coasting through and I'm okay with what's happening. But I think if you're disappointed, you're frustrated, you've gone through multiple dieting phases, you've done this on your own for a long time, and you just don't have the bandwidth to do this anymore, it doesn't make any sense why you outsource every other part of your life. Somebody cuts your hair, somebody mows your lawn, somebody washes your car, somebody cleans your fucking rings and your purses for you. But when it comes to nutrition and training, you're like, oh, I'll figure it out. This is a complex system that's woven together in a very intricate way, and the way that you train is going to impact how you eat, and how you eat is going to impact what happens in the gym, and how you sleep, and how you show up every day. Yet people still don't want to actually be able to go out and invest in themselves.
No, I think it comes down to, like, do you want it bad enough? Because you will move heaven and earth if something happens tomorrow, God forbid, there's a medical situation, and you have to find a specialist. You will cancel every appointment that you had. You will do whatever it takes to make that happen. Like if your hair person is only available one day next week, you will move every appointment around. Because I've done that. I'm like, fuck, I can only get in that day. Okay. Like people will do that. We have guys who have gotten, I don't even know, like have had injuries. They've gotten out of surgeries. They've had, they're battling like a blood clot. They've battled all this bullshit in their life, and they're still finding ways to get in the gym, to get stuff done as they travel, all this stuff. Like, I think Chad and Roger were in the gym at like 8 p.m. on Christmas night just because that's the only time they could do it. Because there's discipline, and then there's liking the idea of something. We all like the idea of looking a certain way. Are you willing to put that actual work in? And people, they'll say, yeah, and they'll be very excited. But then when they're confronted with doing the hard thing, that just things stop. And that's when you need somebody to like talk you through that, either talk you off the ledge or however you need to be talked to. Like you saw, Luke talks to me a very specific way, and he will call me names and that gets me going. But if he was like soft and like coddly or whatever, then I'd be like, well, fuck him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, you know,
Well, I
but
think too,
and that's the art of coaching.
But that's not a net, like when you said about getting your hair done, people know I'm paying for this service and this is the result I get.
yeah.
They're looking at coaching the same way. Well, I'm paying for this coach. I should just get this automatic result because I did this. Versus looking at it maybe like their job, where not everything works that way. At work, you do something and, hey, you didn't get the P&L, the profit loss that you were expecting, or you didn't get the performance or the reaction that you were expecting. So now how do I figure this out, make an adaptation to be able to get the result that I wanted at my job? We're looking at outsourcing a coach like we are getting a haircut.
And it's very much, it's like dating. You know, sometimes you have to go through a few before you find one that fits your personality and what you need. But expectation management is a big thing as well, because people don't know what they don't know, or they see something on social and they expect X, Y, Z, like guys who want to look like Chad. And I'm like, you never will. Like nobody will, because like you have to be his clone. He has a twin brother who doesn't even look like him. So if that's not going to happen, you know, and it's helping them understand what their potential is, because maybe they've never believed in themselves enough to think that they could have abs, to think that they could have veins. But that is where having a coach comes into play, because we can literally time collapse what you've been trying to do for the past however many years and give you the roadmap. And it's going to be like this. Like when I get my hair cut, if like a week later, it starts growing back, I don't get mad at my hairstylist. Like, oh, you said that my hair would stay short for a week at least. Like, the fuck? Like, if I blamed her for that, like, no. So just because you pay a coach, it's not this linear progression of your results. And I think people learn that. And that's why it takes so long, because I'm sure you guys get asked, like, what is the timeline? What is the timeline? We don't know. Like, nobody knows.
I had somebody ask me today, can you promise me whatever it was, XYZ? I said, absolutely not.
Well, it's like they want the timeline, but can they promise their compliance rate?
Even if they could.
I'll be 97% compliant.
Even if
what I'm saying
could,
is, but they can't. Yeah. Nobody could say, I'm going to be 100% compliant. Nobody can say I'm going to be 90% compliant. No. But then they want how long is this going to take, or what can I expect? It's
months and years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
months and years, just accept it.
I've said, like, for us, a lot of guys want abs. They want their abs to show. They want more abs to show if they have abs. So that's a lifestyle. That's not a destination endpoint. That's just a way of living. And I've talked about this a lot recently because it comes at people very, very harshly. When you change what you're doing. So say you have somebody who is either new to this lifestyle, meaning fitness and eating nice, well, all that stuff, or you have somebody who's already living that fitness lifestyle, but they want to prep for a photo shoot or get absolutely shredded. That comes with changing how you are socially. That comes with saying no. That comes with basically moving into a different identity. So that causes a lot of people to get triggered. That causes friends to not want to be around you because you make them feel bad about themselves. So you'll get made fun of, you'll get ridiculed, people will be passive aggressive. They're going to like question you, interrogate you, and make you feel all this pressure for wanting to better yourself. But it's never the other way around. Like if someone's gaining weight and spiraling, nobody says like, what are you doing to yourself?
You're okay.
Like, yeah, no, you're beautiful, you're great.
Or you just don't bring it up. Yeah, nobody brings it up.
No one brings it up unless you have the type of relationship with somebody where you trust that they will actually do that honestly. And I have like maybe 3 friends that I have said, like, if I get this way, let me know, because it will not, be a repercussion. I will thank you. Like, I want to know if I'm fucking up. I want to know, feedback is a gift. I want that. So people have to prepare for that, because that's a conversation that we have where I'm like, listen, you're going to go to your 4th of July or your whatever. Like PJ's great at this. He says, pick your celebrations throughout the year. Yeah. You're going to go to these celebrations and they're going to become more of your Wednesdays, because they can't all be celebrations anymore because you want to look this way. So now we have to have a mindset shift, and you have to prepare yourself for resistance from your friends when you say, no, I'm good. I don't want to drink, or I'm going to go to bed. I want to get a workout in tomorrow. They're going to be like, who are you? You've changed. Good. Okay.
Good.
And you may lose
That's what we
friends.
want.
Yeah, I forget who said it.
It's the same in business too. Like when people elevate or they really want to focus on really building something great, like you don't have the bandwidth to have the social life balance and everything else. There is no work-life balance. It's integrated. It's the same with your lifestyle. It doesn't have a start and end point.
Well, that part alone is what people, I think, have a very tough time accepting, is that whatever gets you from A to B, you got to maintain that level of effort now for the rest of your life. So if you,
to some degree at least,
if you got a promotion at work, you don't slide back and get less responsibilities because you're getting paid more money. You got to do more fucking work, show up more often, sacrifice more family time, be at the office more. That's how it works. If you get a physique that you're proud of, you got to hold on to that shit. It's like buying a brand new car and then treating it like shit. It's going to get dirty. You got to maintain it, and that's the hardest part.
And that's the joy, though, of doing it in a slow way, in a patient way, because you develop a lifestyle where it's like, okay, this is just how I live, versus the opposite of, I'm going to do something quick. I need to get there ASAP. You didn't develop the lifestyle. Now it's significantly more effort in an attempt to actually maintain that.
Yeah. And it's something it's so hard to explain, like coming out the other side, like how somebody will be, because they see the other side. It's not that hard. Like maintaining what I look like, to me, is not that hard. To a lot of people who, that's life for me, because I've done this for so long. When this is new to them or whatever, but if you got a lot of weight to lose and then you get lean and then you want to maintain it, anyone will tell you it's really not that difficult, because what you did to get there, now you have some sort of routine and lifestyle, like you said, built in. Nobody has this factory installed. Nobody's born knowing exactly like what they have to do, but you found what makes you happy. You found what makes you feel good. So you do have to continue with that. And I use Brian, our coach Brian Cron, as an example. Brian's 50. He's got a six-pack, but he doesn't, deprive himself all the time or whatever, but you'll see he posts his meals and they're very boring, and that's what he does all the time. And he still
95% of the time.
Yeah. He still enjoys his life. He'll go through his own shreddy phases and photo shoots and stuff similar to me, but nobody ever gets sloppy, because you can still enjoy your life when you're leaner.
Yeah, what's boring for somebody else might not be boring for them. Like somebody could look, I had mahi today and rice and eggs and egg whites, be like, ugh, I liked it.
Yeah. Well, when it becomes your identity, it becomes who you are, and it becomes more than just looking a certain way for a certain season, and this is just how you show up in the world. Like you said, you're going to alienate some people, and it's going to be a little bit lonely up there, because most of the people in the world that around you won't want to support that, because you're going to end up being a mirror for what they should be doing, but they're not doing. And that's a shitty place to be as a person. And you're going to lose friends. You're going to lose people, but those people aren't going anywhere. So if you ever want to leverage them to be the acquaintances that they are and show up and do the drinking events and do the food stuff, they're there. They're not going anywhere.
And if people would remember the most exciting times were those times where maybe they felt the most lonely. You go to a new high school, it's like, I don't know anybody. It's a lonely time. Then it's this exciting thing. You go to college, it was a lonely time. You didn't know anybody. It's this exciting. You get a new job out of college. You didn't know anybody. What the hell? This is new. It was an exciting time, and your life still moved on. Yeah. But I think a lot of adults have spent 20 plus years not having those 4-year intervals of something new and exciting, that they're so scared of this change. They're so scared of the judgment.
Cut that stuff right there.
That was profound, man. But it's so true. You make new friends, and you make friends and people who understand you and celebrate you versus just tolerating you.
Yeah. And that's what's great about, I've loved getting into this space later in life. I mean, I was a trainer when I was 21 and everything like that. I'm not like brand new to fitness, but to get into the online coaching space later in life, it's like there is this new rejuvenated aspect of life. I'm meeting these new people when I go to these things, and it's exciting. And just people aren't doing that in any aspect of their life. They're not putting themselves out there. And it could be as simple as going to meetup.com and finding people in your area who do stand-up paddleboarding, who do yoga in a park. Just find something new, and then you start to create a new level of comfort. You know, it's like we're so
Yeah.
comfortable. You start doing something different. Oh, I am comfortable meeting up with strangers on meetup.com or whatever. I have a client that told me about that website. She's stand-up paddleboarding. She's hiking. She's doing mountain stuff. That's what she uses to meet people and do the activities that she wants to do because her friends don't want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's weird to make friends as an adult, but I think now it's like a thing. Like everyone knows. Like I don't really go to as many events anymore to learn. I go because my friends go because that's when I get to hang out with my friends. You know?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that's
the greatest thing that happened to you, Allie, was going to ISSN in Fort Lauderdale. Tell everybody why.
Why? What? Oh.
Because you met him.
You got to have dinner with me, and you were like, "Can we do dinner again tomorrow? I can't get enough of this guy." Greatest thing that happened in my entire career.
It was so amazing. I can't even remember it.
She blacked out. It was like jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah, she blacked out.
Like,
Yeah, she blacked out.
That was a long dinner. That was a very long dinner.
Isn't it so weird that's only like, what, 6 months ago?
We've also been to 4 other events, I think, all together since then.
I know, yeah, we've been to a couple, but it's so weird. It feels like forever ago.
It does feel like, I mean, it's coming up on a year, like, pretty soon. So, shit, it'll be Silverback again before I know it. And it's, yeah, it's crazy. But that's honestly where you find, like, your people in the community. And, like, you talked about the friends that you made at Silverback. Like, guys don't really go make friends. Like, there's a statistic that literally 27% of guys don't have close friends.
Yeah.
And half of them don't feel there's anyone close enough that they can share or talk openly about their issues with. And I loved how Jay Ferrugia was like, if you don't leave here with a new crew, then you did it wrong.
Yeah, it's
you
on
evented wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he just like, I see this person, we're going to be friends. I don't care if it's creepy. Yo, you want to go to a concert? I love that.
Now, for the record, he says that, but then when I go up to him and say, we're going to be friends.
I warned him about you.
I'm like, hey, can I have your phone? He's like, go up to somebody, ask him for the phone. I go up, hey, you know what I mean? We're going to be friends. Can I have your phone number? And he just fucking turned around and walked away. So I don't know. I don't know.
I think
He still has a little bit of that introvert side in him.
kidding.
He won't admit it, though.
Yeah, I didn't do any of that. But yeah.
Well, he already came on the podcast, so he's done what he's going to do with the other side crew. And he lives 2 hours from me now, so I'm going to run into him accidentally one of these days.
Oh yeah, you should. I can tell you where he is. No, I'm kidding.
Hey Jay, what's up? Can I get your number? I drove all the way up here.
I'll give you his address.
Oh, you shop at this Whole Foods too?
I drove 2 hours to come up here to shop at this Whole Foods to grab myself some sugar-free barbecue sauce.
Yeah, they have the best purple sweet potatoes.
You want to go to the beach together?
It's worth it. Trying to go to the beach together. Do you know a good garage gym we could work out at?
So
We'll be awkward.
Queen of Boner Health is here. I have still yet to achieve an erection on this hour podcast. I'm going to try later on tonight.
I'm trying to get mine to go away.
Me too.
It's still an achievement. For me, arousal is very much more mental than it is physical anymore. Used to be just I could just kind of just make it work just by looking at a pair of boobs or a butt or a thigh or whatever catalog my mother left in the bathroom. But LL Bean used to do it for me. Any of the TJ, any of the
those fishing lures.
Remember Filene's?
He's like
Caldor.
an outdoor chick just did it for him.
I would do anything would get me hard at 12. Now at 40, it's
12.
It's got to be like a fucking Asian chick with a 14-inch dildo backwards on a horse, moaning in 3 different languages while sitting on 6 cocks.
I was so naive. I remember a friend in like middle school, like probably 6th grade or something, 7th grade. I don't even know what grade. Like they ended up having sex with a girl. Okay.
In 7th grade?
It was like
what?
It was in middle school. Okay.
No, not me.
I knew so little.
I lost my virginity at 30.
I knew so little. I'm like, you probably got a boner. And he's like, yeah, you have to. I'm like, yeah, I know.
That's the prerequisite.
Like at that age, it's just boners are embarrassing. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, you probably got a boner. He's like, yeah.
Now it's an achievement.
You have to. I'm like,
they're embarrassing.
You know how I knew? You know how I knew I was destined for this work? I don't know. You know how you remember weird memories as a kid and like your entire life is a blur? In preschool.
That's how I feel. We got to get therapy.
Preschool, they had, those big plastic pools that we were doing pool time or whatever. It must have been hot out. So we're all in bathing suits, and one of my classmates comes up to me, and he was like, "I think part of the material in my bathing suit got stuck in the little slide." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was showing me, but like we're 3, right? And so he's like showing me, and I legit said to him, "Show me again." And I was like looking at his and I'm like
You're
3.
like, show
And
me
I'm
a
like, wow.
third time.
And I think that's when my mom was like, "You need to go to Catholic school."
And then that was it.
That clearly worked.
And that's when the obsession was created. Good job, Mom.
Well, Allie, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence finally. I'm sorry it took so long to get you on, but
It's okay.
We're a big deal these days. So,
I mean, it's all right. I was
gotta-
just waiting by the phone.
Yeah, we
like
gotta
every
save
other
rock
man
stars.
in my life.
Yeah, we got to save rock stars that we know, in the back pocket. We can't bust that nut too early. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I know I have that effect.
Yeah, we have to build up
Well,
over the
for
years,
everybody-
not drop off.
For any of the ladies listening, she is a great resource. If you and your husband are having problems in this department, all seriousness, this is a woman that will respond to every single DM sent to her. So if you guys have questions for her that your husband is maybe embarrassed to ask, please ask on his behalf. Get the information that you need. If you're a woman who's on hormone replacement, I hope we've debunked considering hormone replacement, I hope we've debunked some of the myths and theories and fears. And if you're anybody that's looking for high-level coaching that is bullshit-free but is going to be effective, you better be willing to do the work before you sign up with her. We're going to link all of her stuff in the show notes. And any parting words, madam?
I love you guys. That's all.
We love you
I'll
too.
see you in Vegas.
Yeah.
See you in a couple
And
months.
last question.
Uh-oh.
Bye.